Welcome to Learning English, a daily 30-minute program from the Voice of America. I'm Jonathan Evans.
And I'm Ashley Thompson. This program is aimed at English learners, so we speak a little slower and we use words and phrases especially written for people learning English.
Today on the program, you will hear from Phil Dierking, Susan Shand, Pete Musto, and Dorothy Gundy. Later, Ana Mateo will present this week's Words and Their Stories. But first, a former nuclear weapons center is now a wildlife refuge. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service officially opened the Rocky Flats National Wildlife Refuge in Colorado last week. The factory made plutonium triggers for nuclear bombs for nearly 40 years. The new wildlife refuge is about 26 kilometers northwest of Denver, Colorado's capital. The refuge is generally on flat land and covered with tall grass. It is home to bears, elk, falcons, songbirds, and hundreds of other animals. Visitors to the area can enjoy views of the Rocky Mountains and some of Denver's tallest buildings. Jerry Jaka spent 2 hours riding his bicycle at the refuge last week. He says he was not worried about his safety. He told the Associated Press, "I don't believe that they're covering up any sort of information about pollutants and radioactive elements and stuff in the soil." The federal government built plutonium triggers at Rocky Flats from 1952 to 1989. During that period, there were a number of fires, leaks, and spills at the factory. It was closed after a criminal investigation into environmental violations. The U.S. Energy Department said it found 28 kilograms of plutonium stuck in airways inside factory buildings. Over the years, Rocky Flats operations were under the control of a number of businesses, including Rockwell International. In 1992, a court ordered Rockwell to pay a fine of $18.5 million after it admitted guilt to charges that included mishandling chemical and radioactive material. The weapons factory covered 5 square kilometers at the center of the property. The area was cleaned up at a cost of $7 billion, but people are still barred from going there. The 21 square kilometer area surrounding the factory was given to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for a wildlife refuge. About 16 kilometers of walkways are now open at the refuge. Visitors are told to stay on the paths and not go into the grasslands. State and federal health officials say the area is safe. But some people worry that plutonium particles could have escaped and are still on the property. Some are concerned that visitors could unsettle the particles or bring them home. At least 7 Denver area school districts have banned school field trips to the refuge. Plutonium can get trapped in lung tissue where it can kill lung cells and damage the tissue. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the tissue damage can lead to lung disease and cancer. John Simon rode his mountain bike on the refuge trails last week. Simon says he did not think he would develop plutonium-related health problems, but he worries that children might be at risk. I wouldn't want to walk my kid through here every day in the morning for our morning walk or something like that, he said.
On a warm Saturday afternoon in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a group of men sit outside a shopping center in Kinshasa, the capital. Some of the men wear heavy gold jewelry and have unusual hair and clothing styles. They are rap musicians and they look the part. But this meeting is not about music. The men are discussing politics and the long-delayed elections Congo is to hold in December. One man in a black t-shirt stands and says he is thinking of seeking local office. Then Lexus Legal, the most famous rapper in the group, goes to the stage. "Do not wait to run for office," he says. "If a national level office seems too high," he continues, "go door to door to ask for support in your local communities." Lexus Legal has been in the music business for 20 years. He writes songs about social and political issues. They include "The Art of War," "Misunderstood," and "Dare Peace." Lexus Legal is one of the most respected DRC rappers. Now, he tells the crowd, he will seek a seat in the national parliament. "I want it to be known that I'm not starting a new career, but it's simply a logical follow-up," he says. "I have always been politically minded, even though I never joined a political party." At the office of the ruling People's Party for Reconstruction and Democracy, people move to the sounds of Congolese dance music. The lead singer, Jigodo Ekopo, excites the crowd. "Clap for Shadari. Shadari," he says. The crowd is a mix of politicians, women selling food, and unemployed young men guarding the gate. They all clap loudly. Current President Joseph Kabila announced last month that he is resigning after 17 years in office. He has named former Interior Minister Emmanuel Shadari as his choice for the next leader of Congo. Akopo agrees with that choice. He makes money by singing praises of the ruling party. "We are not musicians. We are not artists. We are politicians," Akopo told VOA. Kabila is the father of democracy. He has handed power over to Shadari, and we support that. Lexus Legal chose a different career path. Politicians take musicians as simple public entertainers who must sing their praises after meetings. "At the very beginning, I refused to play that game. I have never performed during political discussions or meetings, but I don't criticize artists that do this," he says. The ruling party often represses the opposition. It has barred 6 opposition members from seeking the presidency in the upcoming elections. Former rebel and Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba is among those barred, but he is fighting the ban. He is considered strong competition to the ruling party candidate. Popular rapper Bob Elvis released the hit song Dégage a few weeks ago. It condemns corruption of the ruling party. Elvis's family told VOA that 2 weeks ago, state security forces seized the singer and held him for days. Elvis is now released, but he has avoided the media since. Many other music artists stay away from heavy issues in their work. Music should be fun. That's why we do it. That's why people like it, says singer Rihanna Prescott. It's happy, especially Lingala music, our local music. Prescott is the lead singer for the band that she and her friends created recently, Star Music. They do not talk about politics in their music. However, musicians like Lexus Legal are ready for whatever changes their political goals bring. Legal says that if he is elected for parliament, he will have to slow down his music making and face politics. But he is not worried. He says, "I know my fans will understand." I'm Phil Deerking.
The novelist Isabel Allende does not like to discuss her legacy. I don't think women think in terms of legacy very much. People and things are forgotten. I am just very happy to have so many readers right now, the writer told the Associated Press by telephone. Known for writing The House of the Spirits, Allende was born in Peru. She is the first Spanish-language writer to receive the Honorary National Book Award from the National Book Foundation based in New York City. The foundation announced Thursday that Allende will be given the medal for her contribution to American letters. In past years, the prize has gone to American writers such as Toni Morrison, who also received the Nobel Prize for Literature, and Pulitzer Prize winner Arthur Miller. Allende has lived in the United States since the 1980s. In a statement, Lisa Lucas, the Book Foundation's director, said Allende's work never makes the experiences of her characters unimportant. She added that Allende's work proves that artistic excellence can also be very popular. Writer Luis Alberto Urrea, who is best known for the novel The Devil's Highway, will present Allende with her medal. The ceremony will take place at the National Book Award dinner in Manhattan. At the age of 76, Allende is among the world's most popular Spanish-language writers. More than 60 million of her books have been sold. She is famous for her stories about many generations of people that often include magical realism. That is a kind of storytelling that presents magical things as facts. Her stories of love and politics have been set everywhere from Chile to the San Francisco area. Allende has been translated into more than 30 languages. Many of her books have been made into operas, plays, and films. They include the movie The House of the Spirits, starring Meryl Streep and Jeremy Irons. She has received other American honors. They include a Presidential Medal of Freedom, given in 2014, and 2 years later, a Lifetime Achievement Award from the literary group Penn Center, USA. She has written more than 20 books, although her first did not appear until the year she turned 40. Her life, she said, was full of love and violence. Born in Peru, she lived in Bolivia and Beirut, Lebanon, as a child before moving to Chile, where her stepfather was a diplomat. Allende was also a cousin of Salvador Allende, Chile's president in the early 1970s. She fled to Venezuela when he was overthrown by the military in 1973. She worked for the Venezuelan newspaper El Nacional for several years. Then her life changed. As her grandfather was dying, she began writing a letter to him that became The House of the Spirits. It was published in 1982, after many publishers rejected it. Her other books include Eva Luna, The Stories of Eva Luna, Of Love and Shadows, and Island Beneath the Sea. Allende has long seen her novels as a way of saving history. She is now working on a novel based on the actions of the Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. During the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s, Neruda organized a boat to take Spanish refugees to South America. One of those refugees is now a friend of Allende's. To me, this novel is recent history because I know someone who is still alive. I can get a sense of it, touch it, in ways I cannot with the remote past, she said. I'm Susan Shand.
Higher education can test a person's academic abilities in many ways. Most study programs require research, class discussions, presentations, and group projects, to name a few. Yet, if you asked almost any professor or student, they would likely tell you that writing is one of the skills most often examined at colleges and universities. In the United States, writing long essays about complex subjects has been, in many cases, a major part of higher education for years. However, a new study suggests that many current college students have never experienced the challenge of writing very long papers. And some experts argue this may not be as necessary a requirement for their success overall. The higher education research company Primary Research Group published the findings of its study in late July. It includes data gathered from 1,140 students at four-year colleges and universities in the U.S. The students were asked about the kinds of long-form writing they had done and the amount of writing training they had received. Nearly one-third of them had never been required to write an essay of 10 pages or more in length.
James Moses is the president of Primary Research Group. He says 10 pages might seem like an unnecessarily large amount of writing, especially for students in fields like math or science. In fact, he argues, many students avoid longer papers by choosing subjects in which they are less likely to be required. Moses says students are likely attracted to those fields because they see many of today's highest-paying jobs are at big technology companies. But he says that many young people fail to understand that there is still great demand for skilled writers in the job market. And long-form writing assignments do more than measure how much or for how long a person can write about any given thing. More than anything else, a long paper teaches you planning and organization to a much greater extent than most other exercises that I can think of in higher education, he told VOA. University of California, Davis writing teacher Dan Melzer agrees. He says long-form writing assignments can teach skills that are useful even in fields that may not seem to be related to writing.
For example, engineers often have to write long, detailed proposals for building projects. Businesses require well-written business plans to get bank loans or money from private investors. Both Melzer and Moses agree that there is a deep lack of writing instruction at all levels of education. The primary research group study found that about 40% of college students were not receiving any writing training. This is not surprising to Melzer. He says it is common for colleges and universities facing financial difficulties to make cuts in such programs. And he says professors often expect students to be well trained in long-form writing from their high school studies or earlier. But Melzer says that is not fair to students, especially those whose educational experiences were centered on skills other than writing. So, he says, professors of subjects that are not heavy in writing should find ways to include the skill in instruction. If your teachers are only giving you exams and you're cramming for the exam and kind of spitting out real short answers, you're not really doing in-depth thinking or critical thinking, he said. You're not really using your mind to the fullest.
Elaine Mayman is the president of Governors State University in University Park, Illinois. She also helped establish the Writing Across the Curriculum movement in the 1970s. This was an effort to get professors in fields like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to make greater use of writing in their classes. Supporters of the movement seek to train such professors in writing instruction. They also help professors share successful writing assignments with each other and show them how best to criticize students' written work. Mayman shares the opinions of Melzer and Moses that writing instruction is highly important. Still, she is not as concerned about the lack of longer assignments. She agrees that in some cases, these long assignments can challenge students in a helpful way. But length is not the only quality that is important, she says. Counting pages. That's not the way to assess whether students are learning to be writers, said Mayman. If you say, we have a great program and the students have to write 5 10-page papers, what you're going to get is a lot of filler. So students aren't going to be learning how to write, rewrite, rethink. And when should something be brief instead of long? We want to make sure students understand that, too. I'm Pete Musto.
And I'm Dorothy Gundy.
Now, the VOA Learning English program, Words and Their Stories. On this program, we explain the origin and usage of common phrases and expressions in American English. Popular culture has a strong influence on language. The expressions that come from movies and television shows can be especially powerful. When we use expressions that come from a movie or television experience shared by others, it can create a feeling of closeness with them. If someone says a line from one of your favorite movies, it is kind of like you both belong to the same club. Some of these pop culture expressions have become so common that you might not even know the shows they come from, but you can still use them. English has many phrases that have found their way into common usage. Today, we talk about a water-based phrase and useful adjectives that relate to it. If I say to you, "Just keep swimming," I am quoting a fish, a really famous fish. In the movie Finding Nemo, Dory is a friendly, helpful, optimistic fish. She becomes friends with Marlin, a clownfish who has just lost his only son. Dory offers to help Marlin find Nemo. Actually, she does not take no for an answer. The search is very difficult. Along the way, they face bloodthirsty, confused vegetarian sharks, bloodthirsty but very clear-headed pelicans, and dentists. Every time Marlin feels like giving up, Dory says to him, "Just keep swimming, just keep swimming."
When life gets you down, you know what you gotta do?
I don't want to know what you gotta do.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. What do? We swim, swim.
Dory, no singing.
With these words, Dory is telling her friend that he should not give up. He should keep looking for his son. At some point, we all face a difficult situation. We may feel frightened, sad, or just overwhelmed. And we may want to give up. But then a friend says, "Just keep swimming," and it gives us the hope we need to reach our goal, to finish strong. The expression may come from a children's film, but its meaning is not childish. And even if someone has not seen the film Finding Nemo, they most likely will know what you mean when you say it. If you keep swimming, you will not drown. Another expression, "to keep your head above water," expresses a similar message. Don't drown. Take action to survive, even if that is all you can do. English has some great adjectives to describe people and things that do not give up. One is resilient. Resilient people do not give up in the face of adversity. Resilient can refer to things also. For example, a tree that keeps growing even after lightning strikes it could be called a resilient tree. Another adjective to describe someone who will not give up is indefatigable. Now, it does have 6 syllables, so you may need to practice saying it. I know I did a lot. Just remember that the stress is on the 3rd syllable, indefatigable. So, would I say, "Just keep swimming," in a very serious situation, or to a very serious coworker who I don't know well? Probably not. But we do have other words of encouragement. You can say, "Hang in there," "You can do it," or "Don't give up." When we use expressions or phrases from movies or television shows, it is a way of sharing culture with another. And that's it for Words and Their Stories. I'm Anna Mateo.
Keep on trying, you're gonna make it. Don't give up. Don't ever quit. Try and you can do it. Don't give up. Yeah.
And that's our program for today. Listen again tomorrow to learn English through stories from around the world. I'm Jonathan Evans.
And I'm Ashley Thompson.